tuned into Flipping the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 16 of Flipping the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron. He is Chris Infante. And today we have a special guest on the podcast, Gino Cammilleri from Locked On Eagles from the Locked On Network.
What's going on, my guys? Gino Cammilleri here. For you people who don't know me, you can find me on Twitter at Gino_LOE. We do all our stuff through the Locked On Podcast Network. Great collection of hosts. Marcus Mosher is the Dallas Cowboys guy. I know a lot of people follow him. Joe Marino here in Buffalo, who we didn't get to talk to, unfortunately, but he's part of the Draft Network. So there's a good amount of great minds in the Locked On Podcast Network, all over the network. But yeah, here for Philly, it's me and my boy Lou DiBiase. We were at the Eagles and Bills game today, and it's good. This is the first podcast that I'm on since the game. Me and Lou haven't even recorded ours yet, and it's good to be back at recording with some PSN guys where I first started. It's my old stomping grounds.
Oh, wow, that's good to hear.
That's right. You know who else was locked on today?
Who else?
Miles
Sanders.
That's right.
Yeah, there we go.
Just kidding. He only had 9. He only had 9 other yards other than that 65-yard touchdown. What I'm talking about is Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz came out there and he proved some doubters wrong. He didn't have the yards, and people.
Bro, that wind was crazy. Nobody was passing that ball today.
When I was
out there in the elements, it was bad.
I'm sure, it looked awful, and when I was looking at this game right on my preview, and I just really didn't think Wentz was going to touch 200 yards, and he didn't today. Mm-hmm. But it just between the elements, and you're facing a secondary that really has only been tested once up until this point with the Patriots, but still, you got Tre'Davious White. You got, Tremaine Edmonds, who's very good. You got old Eagles player Jordan Poyer, who is another casualty of Chip Kelly.
Don't forget the Eagles legend, Frank Gore.
Let me talk. Like this.
I have to beat you to the punch every single time.
You don't let me talk. Like I tweeted out, it's always great to see a revenge game. And this is the revenge game for Frank Gore facing off against his old team. Frank Gore wants to go off against his old team, and you didn't let me do that. But
I'm sorry. I apologize.
You don't apologize. It's bullshit.
I don't. I can't.
You're a fucking liar.
You're very sensitive today. I'm not feeling it.
No, I'm feeling good today. It's the first win in 3 weeks.
It does feel good.
It's they finally give us an October win. That's we started with the Jets and we end with the Bills and AFC East. They are 2-0 against the AFC East so far.
But it's been a rough October.
The next AFC East is the Patriots, but we won't get into that right now. Mm-hmm. But because a lot can change with this team from now until then. But I will officially start this podcast by putting out some hate for someone on the Eagles, and I will say that I hate for this move. I hate Doug Peterson right now because the last time Jordan Howard rushed the ball was with 3.5 minutes left in the game. And that rush was for -1 yard. Okay? That brought his rushing total to 96 yards. He did not touch the ball again for the rest of the game. The Eagles have now gone 41 straight games without having a 100-yard rusher. Why not give him the ball for there's 3.5 minutes left?
You just wanted to break the streak.
Yeah.
Just wanted to break the streak. That's it. Come on.
I'm gonna be a sour patch for you right now.
You're always a sour patch.
I have to be. So Jordan Howard, I feel like he could have been past 100 yards if he chose not to run into the big group of offensive line and defensive linemen that were standing right in front of him instead of going to the right or left.
Okay, and how many
throughout the
games can
game.
we say that Miles Sanders could have had broken off a 20-yard run if he actually hit the hole instead of going off to the sidelines?
There's a
good
difference,
argument
though.
to be made against
Sanders
both of
is a
them,
rookie,
sure.
though. Well, Miles Sanders is a rookie.
Yeah, he's trying to be LaShawn McCoy as a rookie.
No. He's just a rookie. That's all it is.
I mean, I don't know about you guys, but before this game, I did not expect them to run the ball like they did today, and they just took over. And we've seen them now twice on the road in big games against teams with winning records, against the Packers, who we are one of the only loss for the Packers and one of two losses for the Bills. And our offensive line imposed their will in two tough environments.
They didn't start off the greatest.
If they do it every single week, you're going to win 99% of your games if your offensive line plays that great. And I'm a big Oregon Duck fan, and I watched my Ducks last night. They're a team that you remember the Chip Kelly days, just throw the ball down the field, like get the ball north and south. Now they're putting the ball in the hands of their running backs. Their C.J. Verdell goes for 200-plus yards. I felt like that was the Eagles today. You have a big arm in Wentz, and it wasn't in the cards today to throw the ball down the field. But when Wentz threw the ball, he was efficient. But the running game and the offensive line, man, hats off to them, and hats off to DeMarcus Lawrence or Orlando Scandrick, whoever lit a fire under that team's ass today, because that was a different team
I'm
that
waiting
came out to play.
to see who they cut today, tomorrow, Tuesday. So they
Sendejo,
come
possibly.
out. So they Sendejo, there we go. So they're gonna trade for a corner. They're gonna trade for a safety, and then Sendejo's gonna get cut, and he's gonna come out and put some slander on the Eagles. And then on Sunday, Khalil Mack's gonna get his ass kicked by Lane Johnson again, and Mr. Trubisky is gonna be just be Mr. Trubisky. I guess that's bad enough.
It's the final form of what Josh Allen is now in the second form of. Josh Allen is one season away from being Mitch Trubisky.
He hasn't absorbed all the bad quarterbacks yet and become Mitch Trubisky.
That was a terrible draft, too, if you actually look at it. That was a really bad draft.
Okay, can I ask you guys this? And like, I'm very biased because I live in Buffalo and I live around Bills fans. And to an average Eagles fan, this game happens every 4 years. But to me, this is one of those things that I live and die for. But at any point in today's game, were you watching Josh Allen and you looked at him and said, man, I would rather have Josh Allen over Carson Wentz?
No.
Because there was not
Absolutely
a
not.
split second in my mind that I wanted Carson Wentz less than I wanted Josh Allen, because Carson Wentz wouldn't do those stupid things that Josh did and hold on to the football, take those stupid fumbles. He did have a fumble today, but I mean, a lot of the things, he has grown from that. And I just haven't seen that evolution in year two Josh Allen that we saw in that year two Carson Wentz in 2017.
I mean, I know you live in Buffalo. I spent 4 years of my life in the middle of New York in SUNY Cortland, and
it
was Bills country. It was Bills. It was Steelers. Yeah, that was it. That was where it was, and everybody up there, no matter who came on the field for the Bills, they acted like they were the MVP. It was like Trent Edwards MVP chants were going off on my campus for so many years. I was there from 2007 to 2011, and Trent Edwards was like the god of Bills fans. And Bills fans think everybody on their team is better than any other team, but Josh Allen sucks. It's like before today.
He can move on his feet though. Like the kid is actually good when the pocket breaks down and he's actually moving on his feet.
I mean, hey Brian, did you read my article? No.
Listen, you're being a little sour patch.
Exactly.
You need to relax.
So you just answered my question with that. I wrote down and I said, Josh Allen's is Jekyll and Hyde, and the Jekyll is his passing offense. Because Dr. Jekyll is a nice even keel. No one's scared of him. No one's scared of Josh Allen throwing the ball. He had 62% coming into the game, 62.4% completion rate, and that was 20th among quarterbacks with 100 more passing. Wentz was lower, but that's also factoring in 17 drops from his receivers. So obviously his completion rate would be more than that. But also 68% coming into this game. It's probably more after this game. 68% of his passes, 20 or more yards downfield, have been deemed uncatchable by Pro Football Focus.
Yeah, it's an absurd rate.
We were talking with Kiss last week, and we were like, you know what, John Brown is just gonna burn past our DBs like Felton did on that one, and Josh Allen's just gonna throw it outside the stadium. He's just gonna launch it. It's gonna go outside the stadium. No one's gonna be even close. I mean, I know that throw was short, which is weird, but because
he was throwing with the wind at his back too, which is unbelievable.
So I don't know how Josh Allen underthrows someone with the wind helping him, but it happened, and everybody was saying McLeod had agulator arms on that. That's another term we deemed last week, agulator arms. But McLeod wasn't even close to that thing. This is a completely different situation. But Josh Allen, passer, he's awful. His DVOA
is terrible.
He's 27th out of 32 quarterbacks. He's awful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just efficiency, like just playing like a wild man. That'll work in the Mountain West of Wyoming, but that doesn't work in the NFL. Like it will beat bad teams like the Jets. It will beat bad teams like Miami. It will beat bad teams like Cincinnati. But we were sitting here and I saw the confidence rating that they always put out each week, and our fans were like at a 7% confidence rating. I'm like, you guys do realize this is a very beatable Buffalo team. This was not a Tom Brady that we're going against. It's Josh Allen. The guy turns the football over, and I said one of the main points of coming in today is if you win the turnover battle, you will win this game. And what happened? You got to Josh Allen, BG, Fletcher Cox. Those guys were there all day. They were getting pressure to him, which we expected. And, hey, came out on top of the turnover battle. We're not sitting there 2 possessions behind like we were last week. The defense came out and put that offense in a position to win the game. And if Deshaun Jackson's in that game, we're talking about this offense maybe scoring 50 points. That Buffalo defense did not impress me at all. Alshon Jeffrey was beating Trey White in man coverage all day. The run defense, even with Matt Milano, couldn't stop our run offense, which was just otherworldly today. I had all confidence in that Eagles team after I saw a couple of those drives because they were cooking, and it was a beatable Buffalo team, and we saw that today. I think like we exposed them, and this is another game in Chicago next week. You're going up in a very similar situation with a very good defense and a quarterback that is going to put you in a position to win the game.
Very identical teams next between the Bears and the Bills, especially with Trubisky in the back.
Absolutely.
Chris, you're brainstorming over there. I'm very curious as to why your noggin is fuming.
No, sorry. I was just leaving a rating for the Chinese food I just got today.
I'm now on Twitter, like
that's why I'm
going at Bills fan. Like this Bills fan is coming at me because he said I was too harsh at the game today. He was apparently sitting behind me, and I just don't get it. Like, unbelievable. Like saying Josh Allen stinks. Like it's like I'm telling you the sky's blue. Like come on.
So my thing with this game is, I feel like it was a great look for the offense, great look for the defense. Darby looked pretty good. Militax actually looked pretty decent since coming back. He had his speed back.
Like who?
Yeah, he definitely had his speed back, which is really good.
Must have been Buffalo.
Pass rush.
He was back in Buffalo.
Could have been a revenge game for him. The pass rush looked pretty good as well. My only takeaway.
Wait. What is that? Can you repeat what that word was? Was that pass rush? And pass rush creates pressure, which is better when you have coverage on the back end, which they had today, and it all came together, and today was the perfect inclination of everything we have been talking about this Philadelphia Eagles team that they've needed to do to successfully win games. Yes, that was exactly what Chris and I have been pounding the table for 4 weeks.
Pass rush?
Yeah, I'm done with you. My only takeaway.
Remember last week when I was talking to Chris, I name dropped Gino. I was like, listen, me and Gino Cammilleri on Twitter all the time. We're like pass rush.
And Chris never really name drops anybody on the podcast. Unless it's like he's trying to trade me for somebody. He never really name drops anybody on the podcast. So that was huge that he brought you into that conversation.
And all you Eagles fans out there, and almost all of you are like, the pass rush sucks. Pass rush sucks. But it's because the corners are playing 15 yards off the damn receivers. So when the quarterback's getting the ball out in 2 seconds. There's no defensive player outside of Aaron Donald, maybe J.J. Watt, maybe Khalil Mack, maybe Von Miller, future Eagle Von Miller, who's going to get to the quarterback in that small amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
As much as I love Fletcher Cox, as much as I love Brandon Graham, as much as I love Derek Barnett, and when I made that tweet, I think it was a couple weeks ago, saying Derek Barnett's coming, some people retweeted me like, wow, he's on pace for 5 sacks. No, he is on his way. You saw that today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, a couple months ago, we did a PSN article saying that, and I think you stated it, Derek Barnett was going to be the breakout player for the team.
My bold prediction was 12 sacks from Barnett this year. Because
I said 3 guys should be close to 10. And you got BG right now. He should be there. I think Derek Barnett by right should be. And if Fletcher Cox got this monkey off of his back sooner, he's got 2.5 the last 2 weeks. He's got some very favorable offensive line matchups the next couple weeks. I mean, Seattle's offensive line isn't great. New England's always looking for offensive line help. I think they're going to continue to get there, and you saw it today. Me and Lou were sitting there next to each other, 3rd down and 8, and we're like, wait, are they playing press coverage today? Well, they're not playing them 10 yards off the ball on 3rd and 8 and just playing bail right away. They're actually letting Ronald Darby and Jalen Mills, who, hats off to Jalen Mills, had another very competitive game this week. Sidney Jones, even though he did get burned, when nobody had any confidence in the kid, comes out and has a couple very good pass breakups. Hats off to Jim Schwartz today. We were waiting. As much as I want him gone and as much as a lot of Eagles fans want him gone, you can't look at what he did today against his former team and say he didn't come out and right all of his wrongs that he's done the last couple of weeks, because he got to the quarterback. He put his corners in favorable matchups against wide receivers that, hey, Cole Beasley, a very agile runner in his own. We've had struggles defending him.
He's had the Eagles number as well, yeah.
John Brown always gets behind defenses. Those are 2 types of players the Eagles don't match up well against. And they did a good job today. They limited them. And, hey, hats off to Jim Schwartz. That defense put on a show today. That was, at no doubt, once they took the lead, the way that defense was playing, I think they were going to give up a lead.
So moving from the defense, I don't know if it was just me, but I feel like the one thing that was really missing, I don't want to say deep threat because I feel like that's too broad of a term, but I feel like the Eagles really need more of a dynamic receiver.
Yes.
Like Matt Ryan has Julio, Jameis Winston, very undeservingly has Mike Evans.
Right.
Oh, now you want to praise Sanders? Okay.
We have Sanders. The best receiver on our team right now is rookie running back, Miles Sanders.
So
you're not going to argue with me because you know I'm right.
Absolutely not. I love Miles Sanders. I'm getting my jersey like very, very soon. It's going to happen. And I'm going to wear it on the podcast just to piss you off.
Okay.
All right. I already got my Ortega-Whiteside jersey, and he has no statistics. So
it's wild that they're still punishing that kid. But Matt Collins is over here on the scrimmage like this.
Hey, he runs good routes, though. He runs good routes.
But he never knows what he's doing. What's going on?
Again, Mike Rowe tomorrow or Tuesday, their press conference Tuesday. Oh, Matt Collins had another nice routes out there. He's running.
Nice route, got no separation. That's exactly what you want out of your wide receivers.
He's like in the friend zone of targets. Like it's like, oh, you're running really nice routes out there, but I'm still not gonna get you the ball.
Yeah, you saw it today. Like, especially being there in person, you saw the one wide receiver that could make those guys pay, and that was Alshon. I mean, the other guys they weren't even a threat. Like, when Nelson got the ball in his hands, he just wasn't a threat. But Alshon has stepped up back-to-back weeks, I feel, and
he actually got separation on back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, he's hit that honey hole in zone coverage twice in the past 2 weeks for big games. He did that last week against Dallas on that play when Wentz he hiked it before Dallas was really ready, and he just gets him down 30 yards down the field into that honey hole. He did it again today against Buffalo. And
I think on that,
he's he's the only guy I trust.
Jeffrey was just the recipient of like a really gift throw last week. Like absolutely no one on that line was like, they were like, what's going on?
They were just looking around
Wentz had the wherewithal to be like, oh, game's still going, and then he throws it. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Jeffrey, the first like quarter of this game, Jeffrey did not seem like he was in it. It was weird the way he was playing, and I was pretty concerned. I was like, what's going on? Like if Jeffrey's not in it, we don't have a receiver that's in it. It's plain and simple.
Trey White's a hell of a player.
Yeah, Tre'Davious White, he's great, but like Nelson Aguilar going on sweeps, and going for nowhere. You know, he had that nice run in the first quarter, but after that,
and then he had the other one following that on that third and fourth, and it was like he didn't know where to go.
yeah, but that was a stupid play call.
Yeah.
But there's something with Doug Peterson in these third and fours.
Mm-hmm.
He just does not like converting them, I guess.
Yeah.
Which is weird because the Eagles are a good third down team.
Yeah, third and wins. It's definitely something. But the idea of adding a dynamic player to this offense is something that really, I think they think Nelson Aguilar is this field-stretching, dynamic playmaker, which he never was, and he never really was at USC. And the idea that he was going to become this player is just something that really never sat well in my mind. And outside of 2017, when it was kind of like a flash-in-the-pan season, you really haven't seen it. But you watch college football yesterday, and you see a guy like CeeDee Lamb, a player that is supposed to be drafted in the first round and will be drafted in the first round because he is a dynamic playmaker. This Eagles offense doesn't have any of them outside of Miles Sanders. And on the outside, in a league where the best offense right now is the Kansas City Chiefs with Tyreek Hill and Mecole Hardman, two of the fastest, most agile, most explosive, most whatever characteristic you want to give these guys, they are playmakers. And that's what this I feel like this playbook could be added to another, it could just be taken off to another dimension if they add that. Not just a field stretcher. Like, that is just a very bold term for an explosive guy that can.
I'm talking about like a guy that can do more than just
that can win at all levels of the field. Just
absolutely.
Can create separation on it. I think Devontae Adams right off the bat can get you 3 yards. He'll beat the guy off the line of scrimmage. You know without a doubt you're going to get 3 yards. I completely agree with that. And we've just not gotten those guys in the draft. I don't know why, but I feel like you can go out and get a guy like Robbie Anderson come this week, and hey, that's a guy that will create separation, not just down the field, but in the intermediate areas, and is an element that this offense has missed for quite some time. Even with a Torrey Smith, even with a Mike Wallace, they just haven't had an electric style receiver since early Deshaun, to be honest.
Absolutely.
They haven't had an electric style receiver that can stay healthy since
early Deshaun. Yeah.
They tried. Torrey Smith has really been the only one. I think he played 16 games for them, but outside of that, outside of that, Mike Wallace was hurt early. Deshaun Jackson was hurt. Yeah. We were hoping DGB was something. I was hoping.
Oh, you remember that trade? I think everybody was going crazy for that.
I was so hyped up for that trade because, just looking at his physical traits, what he did in Tennessee a few times, it was like Kenny Britt. And Kenny Britt showed some flashes, and then you see what happens. DGB, I was like, oh my God, we could get this guy. He runs a 4.4 at his size, and his he's tall. He get the ball, and then he just didn't do shit. It's
one interesting thing that I would take away from this game is that if I had John Brown and Cole Beasley in my offense,
I don't want Cole Beasley.
I mean, I'm not saying Cole Beasley in particular, but a player that can create that type of separation, like in a phone booth, and added them next to Alshon Jeffrey and had like that 1-2-3 punch with a very good slot receiver and that number one that can burn, man, you would see shades of that 2017 offense with Doug Peterson, because you see it. Like, you can't deny it. And I finally think they realized, and hopefully that the wind was kind of like a factor today, that we're not pushing the ball down the field. We can't do it. Nelson Aguilar can't track. We're not even going to try with the wind. And honestly, that might have been a saving grace for them today, because what they did, the game plan that they came out and had today, was they did everything well in the areas that they knew they could perform well. And that's the best way I could say it. They knew that Carson will convert on third downs. They added some spice in with those carries from Carson Wentz, who all of a sudden is just like one of the most athletic quarterbacks in football, which was unbelievable.
That knee is healthy. That knee's looking pretty good.
And you just ran the ball to the moon, and your defense played well. That was a great game in every factor. Besides the Boston Scott fumble, I think it was a near flawless game.
I did have a little bit of a scare, though, when he got one of his sacks. He slammed his hand down on the ground like he was pissed off. I was like, oh no, did he just hit the ground? Did he just do that because he's hurt? But obviously he was just pissed off. But
I think we all flash back to that moment in time when he tore his ACL when he starts to run.
Oh no!
Every time he runs, we think about that. So talking about dynamic receivers, Chris wants to introduce a a segment for the show because of the trade deadline that's happening on Tuesday. So, what do you have in mind, Chris?
All right, so everybody likes a supermarket called Trader Joe's. You bring your cart there and you're looking for healthy. Trader Joe's is pretty, like the cheaper alternative of Whole Foods. Whole Foods is expensive as shit. So we're gonna go to Trader Joe's and get some good quality nutrition on this team, on this roster, put at good prices. So we're gonna go instead of Trader Joe's, we're gonna go to Trader Howie's. I definitely thought about this on my own. No help.
Didn't have anything with a particular tweet that I happened to put out after the Bills lose me.
If anybody else out there on this podcast or outside had a tweet that mentioned Trader Howie, completely coincidental.
Frauds.
Completely coincidental. So we got 4 aisles here. We're Howie Roseman. And we're walking through the aisles, and there's 4 aisles in the store, and the first aisle contains teams that are either winless or have 1 win. I'm going to go down the list here and see, and some of these teams, actually, really one of these teams, doesn't really want to trade anybody, which is stupid. But I'm going to go team by team, and you're going to tell me who you want from this team, who you think is a realistic target from this team to come to the Eagles. And obviously, it's a disclaimer to everyone listening. Obviously, we're not telling the Eagles to get every single one of these players.
Mm-hmm.
We're not giving ideas of who.
We're just giving ideas. In a perfect world, yes, we'd get all these players. Yes, sure, but it's not realistic. The trade deadline's a couple days. There's still a game tomorrow, which I think the Jets play tomorrow, right? Tomorrow night.
I think so. No.
Did they play today?
The Jets played today.
They played today already.
Tomorrow's Steelers.
Oh, Steelers.
Yeah, Steelers and
the irrelevant.
So never mind.
Yeah,
the Jets
it's not a bad team.
Jets lost again. All right, so here's aisle 1. We got the shopping cart. Miami Dolphins.
Xavier Howard.
I would say Xavier Howard as well. I think he has a very team-friendly contract. I actually looked it up. He signed for the next 6 years with no cap number over $14 million, if I'm not mistaken, which is not even within the top 10 for corners, and that's pretty cheap. And he's a guy that you can grow with, and he's young enough, and that's the type of guys that I'm going to just continue to force down the throat of this team, because I think there are some areas that you can definitely bring in some young pieces. And as much as I wanted Jalen Ramsey, there are other players that are young and are on favorable contracts that you can bring in. As much as people don't want to agree with me and think draft picks are the end-all be-all, there are guys out there that will be exploited in this market inefficiency, which we call the trade deadline. And Xavier Howard, a team like Miami, what incentive do they have to keep this guy? They're not going to compete for the next 4 years. We know that, and
Exactly.
they've made it known. Why would they want to keep this guy? In a team like the Eagles, you're as desperate as at corner and need a guy that you can grow with. I'll send a first and more for Xavier Howard any day of the week.
All right,
I second that.
So we got. I like Xavier Howard. I actually was on NFL radio today. I called in to talk to Alex Marquez this morning, and.
Wait, you being serious? Or is it like?
Yes. I called in. Yes.
You were awake when this happened?
Yeah, it was 9 o'clock in the morning. I was on my way home from the gym.
Okay, just making sure.
Yeah, I wasn't dreaming. Alex Marquez in the morning on Sundays. Last week I called in to give my bold prediction, and my bold prediction last week was T.J. Edwards would have 10 tackles, and Alex Singleton would have a sack, and I was wrong. And he actually used me today as a cold take. He played my clip from last week, and it was a cold take. So that was embarrassing. But
sorry, man. I'm sorry to hear about that.
So
how does it make you feel?
If it makes me feel, I don't know. I guess popular because I was on Series 6. Which, speaking of which, before I get into the Dolphins, my Dolphins pick, Gino, I'm all over the place. So don't worry about that. Today, I'm feeling pretty good because I am followed on Twitter by the Eagles defensive line coach Philip Daniels. He now follows me.
No, you gotta say you gotta say from the beginning, like exactly how everything transpired.
So the other day, a few days ago, I tweeted out that next year the Eagles should try out Jordan Mailata at defensive tackle.
Mm-hmm.
Because, we signed Alejandro Villanueva to, when Chip Kelly was here as an offensive tackle. And even though he played defensive tackle, defensive end, pretty much, prior to moving over to offensive tackle in the Army. So they signed him. No, sorry. We signed him to be defensive tackle. My bad.
Yes.
Signed him to be defensive tackle, even though he played offensive tackle in Army most of his Army career. And that he failed. He failed at that miserably. Steelers bring him in, move him to his natural position of offensive tackle, and he's a Pro Bowl offensive tackle for the Steelers. Why not move Mailata and his athleticism and his size to defensive tackle or defensive end?
Hell of an idea.
That, even though I want to see him at fullback, so bad.
That'd be legendary.
Goal line carry Mailata, it's in every time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
If you want to preserve Wentz,
that's the frame you want somebody on your defensive line. That's a guy you mold from clay to put on your defensive line.
Yep. If you want to preserve Wentz on those sneaks, on 4th and 1 sneaks, just give it to Mailata at fullback. That's it. But then someone on Twitter, Shaq Mitchell, I'm gonna call him out too. So he retweeted it with the thinking emoji with the hand on the chin, and I said, he's athletic, his size, his speed, just use those traits. And he replied, I don't trust Philip Daniels with that project. And today, after the game, Philip Daniels, the coach of the defensive line, replied to him saying, "You should. I can handle it." And I'm like, oh, okay.
Wow.
Pretty bold.
So then I put the eyes emoji, like, uh-oh. And then he puts the laughing emoji, and I said to him, "Great game by you guys up front today, Coach. Go Birds." And he replied to me, "Fly Eagles fly." And then the guy, Shaq Mitchell, he replies, "You're on Twitter, Coach. Now I can bug you all the time." With just a playful LeBron meme on it. And then Coach Daniels comes on and replies, "Please don't. I'm busy trying to win." I'm like, oh, and then next thing I know, he follows me. So shout out to Coach Philip Daniels. You boys did a hell of a job.
That's a funny point, because we were just talking about this yesterday with the 4th and John crew that came in to town. We were lucky enough to have them on the pod, and we brought this up in conversation. And I've been a big advocate of this to Lou on our podcast, and saying, at what point do you look around this team and see the positions that they have excelled at growing players? I.e. being the quarterback position, and then the offense and defensive line. I look at Jeff Stoutland, and I look at Philip Daniels, and what they have done. You look at guys like Hassan Ridgeway. You look at guys like Anthony Rush, how they come along. You look at these young guys that they have just plug and played on both sides of the football, and they do it exceedingly well. But then you look at the back half. You look at the back half of that defense, and Corey Unlin, and what he does with those DBs. He's been here since the Chip Kelly days, when it doesn't take a genius to know that Kerry Williams and Bradley Fletcher weren't that good. Mm-hmm. CBs aren't too great now. At what point do you look at the coaching and say, hey, we have guys at offense and defensive line that can grow players and bring in guys that are no names and get them off the street? But we have a coach that can't take second-round Sidney Jones, who is a top 10 talent, and top 100 player Rasul Douglas, and bring them along and develop them. Instead, we'll rely on Jalen Mills, who's kind of like, what is Jalen Mills at this point? And Ronald Darby, same thing. What is a Ronald Darby? At what point is Corey Unlin held accountable for whatever the heck you want to call it behind his defensive back unit?
I will say last week I was, and I've been a proponent of this all season, because I have been a proponent of fire Jim Schwartz all season. I'm okay with firing Schwartz and promoting Unlin, because I feel like there's a difference in philosophy between him and Schwartz. Schwartz wants his DBs to play off the ball, play sticks defense, play whatever. Unlin in Denver had his DBs in the receivers' faces, beating them up, and that's what brought their DBs, like Raheem Moore, brought him to a Pro Bowl level in Denver and brought them to the Super Bowl. You move Corey Unlin to defensive coordinator, he can impose his philosophy. He can let Ronald Darby and Rasul Douglas, who's a great hands-on corner.
Mm-hmm.
But if he plays off the ball, he's terrible. He and Jalen Mills. These guys like to have their hands on receivers, and we've seen that on defensive pass interference and holdings. They like to put their hands on receivers, but let them do it 5 yards within the 5 yards, and let them disrupt the timing. But when the timing is there, which has been every week for these quarterbacks and receivers against the Eagles secondary, they're going to torch them up. So get Unlin at defensive coordinator so he can impose the Von Miller, Chris Harris type defense that he had in Denver with our Brandon Graham, with our Derek Barnett, with our linebackers who it sucks to say this, but we're not getting another linebacker on this team. So we got what we have, and I mean they played great. T.J. Edwards had a really good game today too. We are big T.J. Edwards and Alex Singleton fans here at PSN, and let them do their thing with a guy who has coached a Super Bowl winning defense. I know Schwartz has, but he's also done it while giving up 500 yards in the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So let Unlin run this thing. Let's see if it goes. If it doesn't go that well, then you strip down the whole thing and start from scratch in the off season. That's it.
I like that idea, and I'm totally with you because I've already labeled the Jim Schwartz autobiography, which will be labeled Jim Schwartz had that one good season in Buffalo, and that's what Jim Schwartz is as a defensive coordinator, and he hasn't done anything otherwise. And I like your counterpoint with Unlin, and we were just talking about this, and Gail Saunders from 4th and John brought it up, and you look at Chris Harris, a guy that Corey Unlin did develop, and a guy who, if he came to Philly, somebody could plug and play immediately. And if he can convince Jim to let his guys play, I think that they play well. And you see Rasul Douglas, and you see how raw he was coming out of college. And today, and the last couple games, you've seen him kind of get out of his ways at times. And today, he had a very good game. But the last 2 games, he just goes back to old Rasul Douglas, gets very handsy, doesn't really know doesn't stick to his technique. And Sidney Jones, he was lost for a while, and then he comes out and has a good game today. So I really do think there are a lot of points, a lot of gaps between the coaching in many different departments. I think you can look at the offensive coaching staff as well with Mike Groh and Doug Peterson. I do think there is a divide at the ultimate way that they design their plays, and I don't really trust Mike to go out there and put together a good game plan. And if once the game plan starts to come together and they start free flowing in the second, third, and fourth quarters, that's when Doug Peterson cooks, and that's when Carson Wentz cooks, and that's when it's all off of Doug Peterson's head, and Mike Groh's game plan is thrown to the woods. So it's like, if we could close these gaps and like figure out what's going on with the corners, get the right guys in there, because on paper, Howie Roseman did enough to solidify your secondary outside of maybe third corner. On paper, you had enough in your cornerback unit. You had enough at your top 2 safeties, and you can't get it done. But on the other side of the football, Carson's getting it done with the guys that he has. So, Jim, Howie's giving you everything. Why can't you get it done? Why can't we close these gaps and just identifying these little areas of improvement and these little areas to win in the margins, which is Eagles team loves to do. You just have to continue to do it, and it's got to happen sooner or later, because there can't be these games, and you're going to get into these games and in the playoffs, and it's 3rd and 13. You have to get off the field, and they let Josh Allen convert on 2 big third downs for touchdowns today. You can't continue to let that happen. And why are we going to disagree with Jim Schwartz and say it's not going to happen? Because it's happened time and time again, and there's no reason for me to trust him until he does otherwise.
Yeah, and we agree. 100% agree with you. And what we have here is that that typical. We were in the supermarket, and we ran into someone we knew, and we started talking to them, and we just like, we're like the kids. We got the kids in the background, like, come on, let's go, we gotta go. But my things. So segueing back, you guys say Xavier Howard from the Dolphins. I'm looking at 3 players. I'm looking at Xavier Howard also. I'm looking at Devontae Parker at his 15.8 yards per reception, if they can't get someone that we're going to talk about later. And I'm looking at Kenyon Drake. Kenyon Drake is a great talent. Obviously, that he was the running back of the future when they traded Ajayi over to the Eagles. But he's obviously fallen out of favor. And I think it was Ian Rappaport who tweeted out today, maybe someone else, that Drake was going to be out today because tomorrow night when they face the Steelers, because they're pretty close to trading him. I don't think it's going to be to the Eagles, but you saw what happened today. Sanders was out. He's probably going to be fine for next week, but then you're down to Howard and Scott. And as much as Scott was working the defense today, and so was Howard, this offense has always been a 4 running back offense, not 3, and then maybe they'll put Aguilar in a sweep, somehow. Yeah, it's been a 4 running back thing. So if you trade for Kenyon Drake, a 5th or 6th round pick probably gets it done. And so now you have a 4-headed monster of Howard, Sanders, Drake, and Scott. Scott is and it's kind of what they were doing in 2017 when Sproles was 3rd, 4th running back, but he was also a punt returner, kick returner. That's the Boston Scott role right there. That's Boston Scott, the 4th running back, kick returner, punt returner. Now in the game you have Jordan Howard, Miles Sanders, and Kenyon Drake. 2017 you had LeGarrette Blount, Jay Jai, and Wendell Smallwood. And Corey Clement. But still.
Smallwood didn't really count.
Smallwood never really counted. But you had those 3 running backs, and see where it took you. It takes so much pressure off of Wentz. It took off so much pressure off Foles, and you see where that took you. If you have a dynamic running back, no matter what play it is, no matter who's rotating into the game, they're seeing, Drake's in now. Sanders is in now. Howard's in now. And then they're gassed, and then all of a sudden Scott bursts forward for like a 9-yard rush in the 4th round. That's going to kill a defense. But I don't think it's going to happen, but that's just my view.
Hey, we're in the shopping mart. That's what you go there for. Sometimes you can't buy everything.
That's right. So now we're moving the cart down to the Cincinnati Bengals, and this is the team that I said previously that is probably not going to trade anybody, which is stupid. They are 0-8 now. And they're not going to trade. They've already said they're not going to trade AJ Green. I doubt they trade Gino Atkins. 2 players that they should trade because they're both
over the age of 30.
Both over the age of 30, but no matter what their age is, they're still going to get them a 1st or 2nd round pick. Mm-hmm. And you have a new coach. There's probably going to be a new quarterback next year. So why not build around that, or get assets? If you're not going to get the 1st pick in the overall draft, or you're not going to get maybe Tua or Hebert or whoever else is the top quarterbacks in college football right now. If you're not in position to get that, get some draft assets so you can move up into the draft and get that guy in the future. Because Andy Dalton's not the guy of the future. So why not? But they're stupid. They're the Bengals. So
those are your picks?
I would like William Jackson. I'd really like William Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a different defensive scheme than when he was drafted. But I don't think they're just not trading anybody. I would say my order would be probably William Jackson, just because of age. William Jackson, AJ Green, then Gino Atkins. Gino Atkins has a contract for like the next 2 or 3 years, and the cap hits are like 16, 17 million each year. And you got Malik Jackson coming back next year, so it doesn't really fit. You're going to be paying top dollar for 3 defensive tackles. As great as Atkins is, I just don't see the Eagles doing that.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Gino?
Honestly, if we're going to be honest, I don't want any Cincinnati Bengals. Like, that's just a bad football team. Like, I agree with Atkins. Like, would I love a player like Gino Atkins? No, I totally would. But you made a great point, and I get into this when I think about trading for Leonard Williams, is can you really pay 3 defensive tackles near, $50 million combined? Like, no. Like, you just can't do that. And it's tough. But, hey, those guys they brought in today didn't do half bad, but still, if Tim Jernigan comes back, I really think that's one of those positions you could sit at. But yeah, I agree with Will Jackson. It's an okay idea. I'm not really in love with it. If you could get AJ Green, of course, but the injury history just kills me. If we were going to take anybody, and hypothetically, I would take probably Tyler Boyd, but I don't think, obviously, for obvious reasons, they're not going to trade him. So that's what I'll go with. Probably none of them.
Yeah, I'll probably just go with, honestly, William Jackson. AJ Green at first sounded really good, but when you actually think about the age, the injury history, like, we don't need any We need fresh bodies.
All right. So Bengals, they got exploited.
They're like the
got
off-brand Captain Crunch.
Yeah, they got. Don't knock those off brands because Aldi's. I don't know if you've ever been to Aldi's.
Bro, I love Aldi's.
Aldi's is great. Western New York and Central New York. Aldi's is great, and they had I think of like one of the first few episodes we had of Flipping the Birds. I said Howie Roseman is like Aldi's.
He actually did. It was like literally probably the second or third episode.
I said Howie Roseman is that guy that gets the off-brand people or the on-brand people for like low prices. Is like when there was Aldi's, and I remember seeing butter, and it was the off-brand of I can't believe it's not butter, and it's like that's not butter, and it's like that's Aldi's thing. They just change the names. They sell the same shit as every other supermarket. They just change the name. So we're moving down the aisle to the Redskins. The Redskins only have one win. And the name that I'm putting out there right now is an automatic no from me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it's going to be a no from everybody else.
I'm going to say
they are.
I know who it is before
they
you
are
say
shopping. Like they put the toaster on the highest. They put the toaster on the highest setting for this one. They are shopping Josh Norman, and that's a no. that's a no.
That cap hit is ridiculous.
And then the age is he hasn't been the same since Carolina.
And his skill set is ridiculously bad. So,
agreed.
All right. So, but
moving on.
I would take a look at Quentin Dunbar if he is possibly available. He's been very good.
I'm fearful of getting anybody in the NFC East after the whole Zach Brown, Orlando Scandrick, DeMarco Murray, Miles Austin. We got a long list of this.
I got another rat on this team. But yeah, so far, so Josh Norman this year, 6 games started. He has been targeted 32 times. He has allowed 22 of those completed. He's allowed 379 yards, 17.2 yards per completion, on 11.8 yards per target. So he's allowed an extra 6 yards on those completions. He's allowed 4 touchdowns so far this year, and 135.3 passer rating.
Yikes!
Yeah. No, we have Rasul Douglas already.
That's right. And so moving on to the team with only one win, and the win that they had, they celebrated it like it was their Super Bowl win. The Atlanta Falcons, only one win. Is there anybody over there that think we can, besides Julio Jones?
Damn.
I'm kind of intrigued at the idea of Trufant.
Desmond Trufant, yeah.
He's been up and down in his career. It's kind of tough when you look at cornerbacks that are really like hit or miss compared to Eagles cornerbacks, because it's like comparing a $1 bill that you found in a puddle to like a crisp stack of $100 bills. It's like, yeah, it looks good, but I don't know if it's really all that good. Like there could be some singles in that stack of 100s, so it's like, are they really that good? I don't think Trufant is anything crazy, but he does fill a need. I don't love it. We're getting into these cap hits, which are just asinine, that these GMs just have these. Look at the Falcons cap situation right now. Like, you're worried about the Eagles fans. Atlanta is screwed for the next probably 5 years. Like, they're fucked, like, without a doubt.
And the Rams are heading into the same direction now.
Yeah, without a doubt. And it's because they sign these crazy deals, and that's the thing with Howie, is that he's never going to put you in these predicaments and take on these contracts, which are ridiculous. Like, every contract he has an out. Yes, they have big cap hits, but he knows how to maneuver around it, and I just can't see him adding a cap hit that he can't take in as his own, like an RFA or a guy that is needing an extension for next year and negotiate it to his price. I can't see him bringing in another GM's contract that negotiated a long-term extension. I just really can't see it. Even though the idea when we mentioned Buffalo with Xavier Howard is good, it's just something that with Howie Roseman we really haven't seen. It's quite different, and it would be a different wrinkle to Howie's repertoire if we were to see that and get like a restructure of some sort.
What about you, Brian? No one?
I was thinking about Ryan Kerrigan, but I think his hit is pretty
You-
damn high.
I didn't know he played for the Falcons.
No, my fault. I thought it was on Redskins. What I meant to say for the Falcons, Vic Beasley, because he's on the trade block. But he's
Yeah, but is he gonna? They maybe get a 6th round for him.
you gotta remember like the Eagles they thrive off rotational defensive ends. Like that was the whole point of having Chris Long back there. That was the whole point of having like everybody so stacked, and that's why Howie wanted to like bet on the development of Josh Sweat, Deshaun Hall. Sorry, I was super distracted. I was looking at a video saying Wentz was saying just a segue. Wentz was saying when a play comes your way, make sure you make it. And he was looking dead at Aguilar in the huddle when he said that.
Oh,
so that's why I got distracted.
Oh boy.
Oh, yeah, Aguilar arms.
But back to the Falcons. I think Vic Beasley would be good if the cap hit isn't so big. Other than that, like
It doesn't matter about
I
the
feel
cap
like,
hit. He's a free agent after this year.
so then yeah, you know what?
They got
Might as well
$26 million in cap space right now.
So take a dive for Vic Beasley. There's
I
nobody
like-
else you're really gonna die for over there.
I agree. You know, if you send a 6th or 7th round pick for him and just be like, all right, let's see what you can do. Maybe they
There's
can
no
sign him
budget for the
to
rest of the season.
maybe they can sign him to a 1-year prove deal next year. See if they can do it 2 years in a row. Then I'm with it. But anything over a 6th or 7th for Vic Beasley, like everybody looks at the name like, oh, it's Vic Beasley. He hasn't done shit this year, so it's like
Everybody changes when it changes scenery. Remember, Chris Long was
that's I know.
same thing.
Chris Long
Garrett
is-
Blount.
Chris Long has always been Chris Long, no matter where he went. He dominated on the
Played in
Rams.
that
He dominated on the
bad
Patriots.
system in
Yeah.
New England though. That didn't fit him. Like
Yeah.
he was
Fit
playing
him,
a Chase
you
Winovich role, and he was not a Chase
Oh,
Winovich style.
Winovich.
I like Chase Winovich, man. He is literally the prototypical Eagles edge rusher. So like me and Lou, we're going back and forth
I
with it
wanted
during
him
draft
so
season.
bad.
You
I
look at
wanted him
BG, like these dudes just got motors for days.
I wanted him so bad. Him and Nasir Adelaide, Gardner
Bro.
Johnson.
I still don't understand why we
Hey,
not drafted
hey,
safety. in
We're
that-
not, we're
in that
not going
draft.
down the memorial of safeties that everybody
so let's go-
wanted in
let's
this
back-
class because
go
I
back
wanted
to
to see
trade Howie.
TJ, I wanted to see. Oh, dude, we're not even going down this path.
Yeah, let's not do it.
Let's
Let's not do it.
It's gonna be a long, depressing path. It's we'd be going down the supermarket and then going into the back room where everybody's smoking and drinking at the. All right, so we're turning the cart around next aisle 2. These teams have 2 wins. The Bucks. Anybody in the Bucks?
Oh yeah. This is
Levante
the dynamic
David for me. Levante
Yeah.
David. As much as the Eagles do not, and shout out to Liam Jenkins for putting this in their article because he put it in his article last week. Levante David, even though the Eagles do not prioritize linebackers, a linebacker like Levante David next to a healthy Nigel Bradham and healthy my twin brother Cameron Grugier-Hill, it's with rotating. If you're gonna rotate TJ Edwards in and not give him a starting spot, let him rotate in behind or next to Levante David. Like imagine the speed in that linebacking corps that you can maybe stop a rushing quarterback for once and put a spy on him. You know, it's really, I mean, because everybody else on the Bucks either sucks or is not going to be able to get traded. You know, Mike Evans is not going anywhere. Chris Godwin is not going anywhere. No, we don't need OJ Howard. You know,
I beg to differ to Mike
cornerbacks
Evans'
suck.
statement
Their
though.
cornerbacks suck.
I would take Mike Evans.
Yeah, because if you think about it, like they can't afford Evans and Godwin. Like one of them has to go, and they're literally on the border of.
So send this guy.
No, why would you take Godwin over Evans?
The speed that Godwin
I would
has.
take Godwin over Evans.
No, I would take Evans.
Evans is just
sorry.
an athletic Alshon Jeffrey. We don't need that.
But he's more of a dynamic
The same
receiver
as
in that regards.
Godwin's
Godwin's just all speed.
Oh, what have we been banging the table for? Deep threat.
I'm saying I want the whole package.
That's Chris Godwin.
Listen, when you're in the supermarket and you're looking at steaks, you're looking at the ounces, you're looking at the whole package of a steak. I want Evans, bro.
It's a good metaphor.
Evans is a London broil. Nice and thick. We'll give it to you we'll give it to you every time. Chris Godwin's that prime rib. Chris Godwin is that versatile. You can do anything with prime rib. London broil, you just slap on the grill and like, all right, that's it. It's exciting. You still have a steak.
Well, one of them has to go. They can't afford both of them at the end of the day.
Again, send us Chris Godwin. Anyways, next. Moving down the aisle. The Giants. Saquon.
Really?
Saquon.
What?
Nobody. I can
Yeah, I don't want
legitimately
nobody
say
for
I
that.
look at that Giants roster and I don't want a single player on my team.
I'm very curious as to why you added them to this list. Like,
They have
you
two
have to
wins. They have 2 wins. I'm just saying. I'm just saying if you.
But you
if
have
guys,
somebody that you're eyeing from over there.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I would maybe the only person I would maybe look at is Jabril Peppers, but that's it. No one else.
Okay.
Nice box safety.
Maybe Golden Tate.
Oh yeah, let's bring him in again.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed the team from one. Oh shit. The Jets. We all know who we want.
Oh
yeah,
this is the good
That's
aisle.
the good aisle.
This is the cereal aisle. We're on the good aisle now.
This is the Robbie Anderson Frosted Flakes milk, and that's how good this is.
So we were sitting on the sideline. We weren't on the field, but we were right in the front row before the game started. We were probably 10 feet away from Howie, and me and Lou, we look at Howie. I'm like, Howie, you gonna get RA tomorrow? And he turns around and throws a thumb. I don't know if it was in my direction, but I took it as we're getting RA. And we're getting Robbie Anderson. Tell him I broke
breaking news.
Breaking news.
Gino just broke
Anderson.
news on Flipping the Birds.
No, but man, that's the guy you want. You want a Robbie Anderson. I'll take a Jamal Adams if they are crazy enough to go out there and trade that guy. He tweeted out today that it's in God's hands now. Who knows what that means? It could mean that they might ship him out of town. Leonard Williams, please and thank you. I would love him next to Fletcher Cox.
Brian said he is hurt, though.
What happened to him today? I saw that tweet. I didn't see what happened to him today.
I just saw the tweet. I didn't see the details, but the whole thing is bringing in another hurt DT is kind of you're stacking up on bad meat right now.
I'm taking Robbie Anderson out of all of them, though, because he's a guy. I'll take Nelson Aguilar's $9.4 million right out of his bank account and put it in Robbie Anderson's bank account and say, yeah, Nelson, you really didn't earn that contract. We're just going to take it back from you and give it to Robbie because he's a guy that can excel in this offense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Outside of
Robbie
that,
Anderson, Leonard Williams, that's it.
If Osemele comes back healthy, I know they just cut him, but as a nice swing tackle, if you were to trade Big V, he's a guy that he's a big body.
If they released him.
No, that's what I'm saying. If you want to sign him as a swing tackle down the road, I wouldn't hate that idea.
What about Brian Poole, the cornerback?
Poole's another idea that I've heard thrown out about there, and he's a guy that I could see Jim Schwartz really liking in his defense, and not a guy that many people have been poking around, so I feel like you could get him on the cheap, and that's a guy I would toss in there. But the thing is, where are they going to put all these guys now? I mean, Cravon LeBlanc's going to be coming back. What are they going to do there? It's just the more and more I look at it, I just don't see corner being the move as much as I want it to be and want.
Unless
them to
we ship a corner out.
Yeah, I know. Are we going to trade Sidney Jones? I could see it.
I could see Jones leaving. That's a big time change of scenery guy.
He needs it.
Between him, Douglas, and Aguilar, those are 3 guys that probably would benefit from a change of scenery. And teams that, especially for Jones and Douglas, more so Douglas, if a team that plays man-to-man defense, hard-nosed, and receiver defense, needs a corner, and they have maybe a wide receiver to spare or defensive lineman to spare, they're going to call the Eagles and probably ask for Jones or Douglas. And that's just a chain of scenery. That's why, when I'll get to this team later. I'll get to this team later. Next team, Broncos.
Ooh. Chris Harris.
Yeah, hands down.
Chris Harris. Yeah.
Right there.
I mean, we all want Von Miller, but there's no shot in hell that's happening. So Chris Harris. I mean, I did see that. I retweeted it. I think it was Benjamin Albright. He tweeted out that the Eagles and Broncos talk for Harris are pretty much dead.
Yeah.
But now the Eagles are looking at Darius Slay.
That's the move I want.
Oh, I don't know what this is all about, but Barshard just said that Mike Florio says the Eagles are looking to do, quote, something fun now that they are 4-4. And Darius Slay, man, that sounds pretty goddamn fun to me.
That sounds like a nice water park and a hot day.
Oh, yeah.
That sounds like a nice
That's like you've been going through the Mojave
yourself.
Desert for the past 400 years and you find a fucking in-ground pool.
That is very fun. Imagine this. Imagine the scenario where the Eagles land both Robbie Anderson and Darius Slay.
I'm going streaking if that happens.
Oh boy.
Dead serious right now.
Ooh, boy.
Okay, before I get too excited, before we make it PSN After Dark, let's move on to the Browns.
To who?
Browns. They just lost again.
Can we just
Rashad
say something real
Higgins.
clear about
OBJ?
you went for Higgins?
Yeah, I don't want Antonio Callaway as much as people may want him.
What about OBJ?
OBJ.
I mean, yeah, of course I want Odell.
Oh, okay, good.
I for sure agree.
Can you skip right over him?
No, I know. No, I for sure want OBJ. But, like, if we're going the Howie Roseman class of taking young guys that need contracts that are making low amounts of money, Higgins fits that mold, and they've just haven't even put him on the field. And, I mean, reason being, you have Jarvis Landry, you have Odell Beckham Jr., like, it makes a lot of sense, but the kid's talented. And they're favoring Callaway for God knows what reason. Higgins can get down the field, man. Like, guy can scoot. I wouldn't mind taking him for, what, 6th, 7th round pick? Maybe even, like, a conditional 7th that you might not even have to give up. I don't even know.
Mine is...
hold on. But after we do Trader Howies. Yeah, it's going to be on hold. I just want to put it out there. I have a question for both of you after we do Trader Howies.
Mine is Joe Schobert. Dude is a dynamic linebacker.
Won't mind that either.
Dynamic linebacker. He had 11 tackles today. He had 8 against the Seahawks last week, 11 versus the Niners the week before. He is a dynamic linebacker that kind of doesn't really fit what they're doing. You know, they have a ton of linebackers right now.
But what are they really doing? Like, they think they sold that whole team at this point because they're just not working. They're not functioning.
They're being the Browns. No matter who they put on that team, they're still the Browns. So,
I saw a tweet saying Baker Mayfield was just a swaggy version of Mark Sanchez.
I saw he's just a chubby Joe Manziel. Wow, Johnny Manziel.
Johnny Manziel.
Joe Manziel. He looks like a Joe Manziel. With Johnny Manziel, he looks like his chubby brother Joe Manziel. All right, so
what we got next?
We're moving along to the Cardinals in aisle 3. Patrick Peterson.
Yeah, I think.
I
wish we could get Jordan Hicks back, man.
He would just get hurt.
You're one of them. You're one of those. We should have kept Jordan Hicks and should have paid him $1 million, even though we pay only base defense 25% of the time, which to me seems absolutely insane. He's a good player, but they're not gonna. They just don't pay. I don't get why they don't pay linebackers. They just are never gonna do it. Like, don't get me wrong. I would love Jordan Hicks, a healthy Jordan Hicks, mind you. But I mean, just organizationally. When have they ever? The
kid looks really healthy this year.
Because they probably that desert out there that does wonders for muscles and limbs and ligaments. The cold weather and combined with the Eagles' inept medical staff, it's not helping anybody. And Jordan
Hicks messed up Miles Sanders' shoulder. That's all I know.
Miles Sanders came out today and said his shoulder's fine. They actually said it's fine. Watch him be out for the year.
Day to day, week to week, in terms of the whole season.
If you hear Doug Peterson utter week to week, the guy's done for the year.
He's out for the year. Because like Hassan Ridgeway went week to week to IR, like real quick, and Deshaun Jackson has been he's close every week. You know, technically I guess Doug is right because he's getting closer and closer every week. He's just not getting closer to game time. But technically, he is getting closer because we're just passing time. But whatever. All right, so we talked about the Lions a little bit. Darius Slay. Anybody else? Marvin Jones?
I was thinking about Marvin Jones. I think that'd be a good play to make, but I don't think they'll make that kind of play.
Yeah, I don't think they move him. The exact type of receiver I want on this team, though. That's for sure.
Yep. I think they end up being the team that gets Kenyon Drake.
Agreed.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I think so. Steelers. Minka Fitzpatrick.
Double flip.
I kind of don't mind. I'm kind of flustered that you even threw that up. Joe Hayden, like, if this was 4 years ago, I wouldn't mind Joe Hayden, but not anymore.
Juju.
Yeah, but they're not gonna.
I'll take
James Washington, maybe if they were willing to part with him. I mean, they like Deontay Johnson, the young kid they got in there now. He can get down the field. I don't know. Steelers just another bad team right now. Like not much around the ball.
I mean, they're going to get a win tomorrow. They're facing the Dolphins, but they're still bad. Jaguars. Keelan Cole for me.
Yeah, I'll agree with that.
I think Keelan Cole.
Yannick.
Great. And Yannick. Absolutely Yannick. But Keelan Cole would be a great addition to this offense.
For sure, man. He's down on the depth chart now. I could see it for sure. Because what, they got Shark.
They got Shark. They got Dede.
Dede and Chris Conley.
Dede's now.
Chris Conley, yeah.
Yep.
Dede he got hurt in today's game. So
He's always getting hurt. So Eagles will trade for him because he's always hurt.
Yeah, right.
Most likely.
And his medical staff.
Yep. The Titans.
Logan Ryan.
I got Logan Ryan, Adoree Jackson.
Corey Davis,
yep. Even
He's
though Adoree Jackson got
over there.
I started Corey Davis in my flex today, thinking that the Tampa Bay defense sucks. So I was like, you know what, Brian Tannehill probably get him a couple times. He did get him a couple times, but only for 9 yards. And I had Latavius Murray on my bench and I had Miles Sanders on my bench.
I did too.
I started Miles Sanders.
I was projected 130 points this week or 120 points, and I only got 87.
Kind of like the Buffalo Bills.
That's right.
Oh, yeah, but they lost. That's right.
Yeah. But yeah, Corey Davis, Adoree Jackson, Logan Ryan, come on over. So all right, so we're done with the aisles of the teams that are bad and should start selling off pieces. Aisle 4. There's 3 teams here, 3 winning teams with winning records. So probably look to send off some pieces to either upgrade their current roster for the stretch run or to load off some cap space. Aisle 4. I'm going to start with the 51-point undefeated San Francisco 49ers. And
yes, I already know what you're going to say.
Obviously, the Eagles don't face them in the regular season this year. They would face them in the playoffs, most likely the NFC Championship game. So a change of scenery trade that Gino absolutely knows what I'm saying. Send Nelson Aguilar back to the Bay Area. He went to USC because those Niners today, they had, again, Jimmy G is so overrated, and most of his passing yards were to Kittle, a tight end. Mm-hmm. Emmanuel Sanders had a touchdown, but I think he only had like 20-something yards receiving. And outside of that, you have Deebo Samuel who had like 10, 15 yards. You have Pettis. They're not good at wide receiver. And if you want Jimmy G to reach his potential as not just a porn star loving quarterback and show that good smile, that award winning smile after a touchdown to a wide receiver, send the Nelly over there, and let's get some rotation on this defensive line, and let's get a big boy. Let's get Solomon Thomas over here so he can play with fellow Stanford alum Zach Ertz. They didn't play together. Zach Ertz was 2012, and Thomas wasn't there until 2014. But the Stanford connection there. I know he's also California too. I get it. But Nelly, the change of scenery would do him well. Like he's obviously he knows he's not welcome here. He has to know. Like everybody was calling him alligator arms, the whole.
My fiance caught a pass in the parking lot on her way to the restroom today from a random Eagles fan. They go, "Oh, you caught that one," unlike Nelson Aguilar. And it's like a universal thing now. It's like you just hear it everywhere.
When anybody catches something, it's like, "Oh, I'm better than Nelson Aguilar." It could be the easiest thing to catch. Like we could go out there and catch a beach ball, and our hands are better than Nelson Aguilar's. So it's like he should want a move. Obviously, he can't. He doesn't control it until after this year, when his contract's up. But I think they were both in the same draft, Aguilar and Thomas. I think. Thomas?
I think Thomas was afterwards
because Thomas was the Trubisky year. He went that 3rd pick right after Trubisky, which was 2016, if I'm not mistaken. But a year after.
Yeah, Aguilar was
They both
15.
played in Pac-12 together.
Aguilar was 2015, and Thomas was 2017. My bad.
Okay.
So Aguilar was Chip Kelly's GM year. Send Aguilar over there, who's in the final year's deal. You got Thomas coming over here, who has another couple years on his rookie deal, and you could develop him. Obviously, Philip Daniels is up to the task. He told me that on Twitter today. So you have a defensive rotation now of Solomon Thomas, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, Fletcher Cox. You could move Brandon Graham inside so he could play next to Fletcher Cox, and then you have Solomon Thomas and Derek Barnett on the ends, and then you have Brandon Graham and Fletcher Cox in the middle. Who is stopping that defensive line? No one.
And then Timmy Jernigan coming back.
You got Jernigan coming back, and then next year you got Malik Jackson coming back, and you still got Thomas on the team. And then you trade for Robbie Anderson, and he replaces Nelson Aguilar. And then you got a whole.
Or you could double dip in San Fran.
Take Pettis.
I was thinking Marquise Goodwin because of the speed.
Or either or.
He's on the outskirts of the whole wide receiving corps.
That's what I also like. Jeff Wilson Jr. The Eagles need another running back on the roster. Jeff Wilson doesn't play for them, and he played 4 games. I don't know if he played today, but prior to today, I believe he played 4 games and he had 4 touchdowns. And he was inactive the other games. He produces. You trade for Solomon Thomas, Jeff Wilson Jr., Marquise Goodwin, whoever, and send them Nelson Aguilar. We don't want him anymore. We had a nice run.
Never wanted him. I wanted Byron Jones in that draft. I've let it be known many a time.
I did too. All right, so now to the next team. Next team, needing some cap space after getting a player that we all wanted. That I saw Brian over and over every day tweeting about this guy. I would never do this. He was tweeting Jalen Ramsey every day.
No, whole time out.
I would never do this.
You offered me.
I would never. No, don't.
I woke up. No, time out. So Gino, check this out. I woke up one morning, right, getting ready for work. I look at my phone, and Chris has a trade offer to Jacksonville, trading me for Jalen Ramsey, one-on-one trade, nothing else.
Obviously,
multiple days in a row.
They rejected it. Wasn't good enough.
Sacrificing me.
Unbelievable.
Oh, whatever. So, all right. So the Rams need to clear some space because they want to sign Ramsey long term. So the Rams have made Aqib Talib available, and I don't want him. I'm not touching him.
No thanks.
Yeah, no.
I would possibly look at Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks I think left today with a concussion.
Another one.
I don't think he wants to be on the same team as Malcolm Jenkins. He probably still has nightmares of Malcolm Jenkins.
Yeah, right.
Maybe he doesn't remember that.
That's true. Maybe he doesn't. He looks at the video like, that's not me. Who's that? But those are really the only 2 that tickle my fancy. Aaron Donald.
No.
I'll take Aaron Donald.
I would pass on the Rams just because I want them to be in cap hell if they're really going to be contenders.
We'll take Cooper Kupp.
Oh, in a heartbeat.
That's Jared's baby.
They can have Nate Sudfeld. He's better than Goff. All right. And the last team that lost today, but still has a winning record and wants to make sure they stay in the heart of the AFC race and say that these 2 losses that they have to good teams and the 5 wins they have against bad teams are just an anomaly. The Buffalo Bills. Is there anybody there that we can maybe flip-flop?
Robert Foster.
Yep. John Brown.
Guy I've been pounding the table to get Buffalo to get him on the field for the last whatever amount of weeks, and he was out there today.
So what he did today.
Yeah, he's a guy that can stretch the field, man. 20 yards of reception. I'll take that in a heartbeat.
I like him. I like John Brown. He's not going anywhere, but I like John Brown. They need an offensive line. Maybe because so Josh Allen was just under siege. He was under siege the whole game. It just thank God he has legs to move. He's not like a statue in the pocket. Because if he was a statue, he would have had 15 sacks today. Absolutely. If he just gashed the defense with his legs. But if he didn't have that ability, Brandon Graham, Derek Barnett, and Fletcher Cox were in the backfield every single snap.
Mm-hmm.
He was just able to escape. So, I mean, we have a guy, Halapuli Vaitai, who doesn't get playing time.
We
And,
actually got a lot of snaps today.
Yeah, well,
Ironically.
he's a Super Bowl winning left tackle. Can't take that away from him. And he could go to Buffalo. They could send us Foster. I wish they would send.
I would do it 1 for 1.
I wish they would send us Tre'Davious White, but
yeah, we could all dream.
Or that linebacker, Trey Edmonds.
yeah, I mean, any good linebacker, send them over here. But yeah, so that's all I got. I mean, is there a team out there either of you looking to make a trade with for someone that you think can maybe help this team?
I think you kind of just solidified everybody that I'm looking at. I made it known to Howie Roseman today, and he confirmed it to me that we are getting Robbie Anderson tomorrow. I'm just
breaking news once again.
Breaking news, going to speak it into existence that we're getting Robbie Anderson. He's officially on a flight headed to Philly. Should be there to sign his extension tomorrow morning. Let's hope. But yeah, I mean, this is a time, and I think you guys kind of did a good job on your podcast last week with Michael Kist and went into the idea of not really so much a rebuild, I would call it, but a retool, as you guys called it. And it's a very good way to put this. And I live here in Buffalo, and our hockey team, the Buffalo Sabres, they have a very good young core, but they just had a couple guys that were just some loose ends that they had bad contracts and had to get out of town. They brought in some young guys, got those bad contracts out of town. They're one of the top teams in the league right now. I look at contracts. I look at guys that I want out of here. I look at Nelson Aguilar. I look at Halapuli Vaitai, guys that you can get assets for that are going to be free agents that I don't really see a future for them here. Nelson Aguilar, see you later. Maybe Sidney Jones is a change of scenery guy. I don't know. But you're going to bring in guys that aren't just rentals. And I think Eagles fans fear this Golden Tate aura that we just have over us.
Chris,
I
know
agree.
what you're saying.
I agree. But you look at Jay Ajayi and what he did and how that elevated this team.
Move.
You can't say you win the Super Bowl without Jay Ajayi. You can't. You don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yep. You see what the Cowboys did with Amari Cooper last year. I know they lost in the playoffs.
It's a perfect iteration of why you trade draft picks for very good young talent. And it's sitting there right in the NFC East, and it's 7-0 against the NFC East, and has made a quarterback that is a middle-of-the-road quarterback look elite over the past 2 years.
Yep.
And you have an elite quarterback here in Philly that players are making him look average because they can't make plays around him. So go out, get a guy like Robbie Anderson. All of a sudden, we're talking about Carson Wentz in the MVP discussion again. Go out on the other side of the football, get a lockdown corner. All of a sudden, you start to get sacks that just come left and right. All of a sudden, you guys are starting to have interceptions, which I feel like we haven't had a one-on-one. Yeah, exactly, pressure. I feel like we haven't had just a one-on-one matchup and a guy got an interception and made a play on the ball in quite some time. And you need corners like that to excel. And Andy Reid, his old adage was, give me an offensive line, give me a defensive line, give me a cornerback, and I can plug and play the rest. And I think that's a great way to look at it. And we are just a cornerback short of having an unbelievable team. And Chris and I, we're huge proponents that the pressure is there. It just, can this team encapsulate what they did in Buffalo today with a few added elements that will only increase the efficiency as they move forward through the season to become what they were in 2017, which they are not far off of. Their points per game is right on schedule to where they were in 2017, if not almost better. In Carson Wentz, he's playing at an elite level, taking care of the ball better than he has any of his seasons. This team is a good football team, and
that's the scary part.
That is the scary part. And I looked at Lou today, and I whispered to him today, if we had Deshaun Jackson in that game, we may have scored 50 points, like no doubt. Like that Buffalo defense was not stopping anybody.
If Deshaun's on this team, I mean, obviously he's on the team. If he's been healthy, if he's played all 8 games, we're looking at a 6-2 team. We're looking at 6-2 at
maybe 7-1.
Maybe 7-1 at worst 6-2 team, and that's why Robbie Anderson is even if they strike out on Robbie Anderson, which the Raiders apparently are looking at him, which I don't get why they have Tyrell Williams, so you have 2 deep threats, and do nothing underneath.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if they don't get Robbie Anderson, get Devontae Parker, get someone who can run down the field and do something, because they can. Neither one of them are Amari Cooper. I am not saying either one of them are Amari Cooper. Neither one of them are.
And nobody's going to be like a Jalen Ramsey either.
Right.
So
no
that's
one's going to be a Jalen Ramsey. Like the closest thing to that right now is Chris Harris.
Yep.
And I broke it down a few articles ago that Chris Harris has been as good, if not better, than Jalen Ramsey the last few years since Jalen Ramsey's been in the league. It's just that Harris is 30. That's it. So, you know, you're going to spend a third, maybe a second round pick on Harris instead of 2 firsts or whatever for Ramsey. You do that deal. If you get Harris in here, Anderson in here, this team is completely different. Even if you don't get Harris, you get Darius Slay, or even any cornerback who knows what the hell they're doing, who knows how to read steps or focus in on the midsection of a receiver and not watch their top. Because watch the midsection, that usually tells you where they're going. Mm-hmm. It's like in basketball. It's the basketball thing. When you're defending someone, you watch their belly button, because their belly button's going to go where they're going. Their feet aren't going to tell you where they're going. Their upper body's not going to. The belly button is. Get a cornerback who does that, then we're in it. We are in it every game. You got the Bears next week, and they are not an offensive juggernaut by any means. Their defense is fantastic. They held the Chargers today to like 30-something yards rushing, like 38 yards rushing. Even though the Chargers rushing this year, you know, it's been Eckler and Gordon, but Gordon's still getting his feet under him. So, you know, Khalil Mack is great. But Lane Johnson has shown that he can handle him, but he's also shown that he can handle DeMarcus Lawrence. And DeMarcus Lawrence kind of made him his bitch last week. But, you know, the Bears defense, they're great, but you saw today, the Eagles can face a great defense and still put points on them. The Eagles can face a great defense next week and put points on them especially when the offense sucks as much as the Bears offense does. And you could do that by putting pressure on it with a Robbie Anderson. Please, Howie, listen to Gino. You gave him the thumbs up today at the game.
You confirmed it. It's already set in stone. It's a wrap.
I'm just waiting for Schefter to give me my props.
You know, Pro Football Talk. I saw that tweet that you referenced before. They are ready to do something fun. And let's end this podcast with our predictions for trade deadline. I am predicting the Eagles will send a third-round pick to the Jets. Joe Douglas will get better offers. But Howie Roseman will be like, listen, see that ring on your finger? The 2017 ring, that's from us. That's from us. And you see all this heat we're getting about draft picks? That's on you. that's
just scouting.
See this Sidney Jones thing that happened? See this thing? That's you. So you always won. Here's a third round pick, maybe a conditional fifth that can turn into a fourth in 2021. And Robbie Anderson will come in. And Darius Slay will be an Eagle, set it in stone. I saw that today. Darius Slay, it's going to be against the Bears. It's going to be Ronald Darby on one side, Darius Slay on the other. Jalen Mills rotating in with Darby. Jones is going to be in the slot. LeBlanc may be back next week.
Strap.
We got him in the slot. His secondary is back.
I love it. I think the idea of Slay is huge.
I agree with that. I'm all for both of those players. I think I was actually going to say that we make both of those moves. I'm not going to say what the exact details would be because I don't want to guess wrong on that part. But I think we shoot for Anderson. I think we shoot for Slay as well. Man. Listen, man, I got track record with these podcasts. I have receipts. All right.
People do listen, man. They'll come back and haunt you. You know.
All right. So Darius Slay is 28. He'll be 29 in January.
That's perfect.
That's the exact kind of player you want on this team.
Exactly.
Do you
right around the age?
Do you send a first round pick for him?
So hold on to that thought. My question to you guys, since we're about to close out the podcast anyways, right? The Eagles, obviously, we don't have a great track record when it comes to drafting. Last year, we drafted only, it was like the specifics was Dillard, Sanders, Arcega-Whiteside, and we had the two, Sharif Miller and Clay Thorson at the end. Should the Eagles just go the Patriots way and start investing high draft picks in these high quality players and then using a comp formula like to their full advantage?
Yes.
Or should we actually just really focus on building young again? Because I'm all for the fact, you ship a 1 first for Slay in a heartbeat. Like,
it seems like
right age.
I mean, especially with the age thing, and Darius Slay, look at his contract right now. This year, he counts $15.9 million against the cap. So this year, he wouldn't be that much, I think, for the rest of the year if you trade for him. And then he's also under contract next year. So you got this year and next year with Darius Slay for a first round.
Sure, how we restructure that though.
And then you re-sign him to a team-friendly deal, like how he always does. And you still have Darius Slay on this team for years to come at age 30, 31, 32. He's in his prime. You send a first-round pick for his prime. It seems like Howie, and we'll see what happens with Sendejo, but it seems like the Eagles are so concerned with this comp pick formula.
Mm-hmm. I think they're cutting Sendejo.
And Sendejo's probably on his way out with the whole releasing of Jordan Matthews thing.
He didn't really show up in this game either.
Yeah, he never does.
Yeah. No, he usually shows up with a wild tackle.
With knocking out Avonte Maddox. That's his wild tackle.
Yeah, right.
But so with the whole releasing Jordan Matthews thing, right now Sendejo's canceling out Golden Tate's 4th round comp pick. So right now they only have a 3rd from Foles and they have a 4th from Hicks. And
if they sign Matthews, did they lose out on the comp pick?
I don't know. I mean, I hope they don't sign him, but and it's gonna send he who must not be named, and he just has initials. Initials. There you go. I'm starting to just refer to him as initials. He's just creaming himself all over the place if Jordan Matthews would be signed again. But the chemistry would be great. Wentz and Matthews again, but whatever. If they're so intent on this comp pick formula, and which they are, and their first round picks, other than, Jury's still on Dillard, obviously. He looks great. The year before, 2018, was who?
We traded our first round pick for to the Ravens.
Traded out. So they didn't really see anybody they wanted that year anyway. Because they wouldn't have traded out.
Derek Barnett.
The year before that, Derek Barnett. Great. 2016?
Carson Wentz.
Yep.
Which they traded an additional pick to go and get, because that's how you address your football team.
Right. 2015 was Aguilar.
Who stinks?
Who sucks? 2014.
Oh, you're going deep.
Was, why can't I think? Did they not have 1 and 2? No, that was Marcus Smith.
Yep.
Wasn't it?
Yes,
oh my God.
2013.
That was a Howie pick, though.
Yep, that was a Howie pick. 2015 was Chip. 2013. Let's see how good you guys are. He's currently on the roster still. Yep, Lane. Yep, Lane. 2012.
Damn, you're really going deep into the decade.
12 was the
2012. He is not on the wait, hold on. Oh yeah, he's still on the roster.
So that means it was a good pick.
12, they stunk.
2 of the picks in 2012 are still on the roster. One of them wasn't on the team last year, but now he came back.
Why can't I think? Wasn't on the team and came back?
Well, not the first round pick.
Oh, Vinny Curry.
Yeah, that was Vinny Curry, but now the first round pick is
what was that draft?
He's an all-pro.
Fletcher?
Yep, Fletcher Cox.
Oh, 2012 was Fletcher?
Yeah, 2011.
Oh, shit. 2011 was Danny Watkins.
I think that was 2010. No, that was not. 2011 was Danny Watkins. Yep, 2011 was Danny Watkins.
2010 was BG.
Yeah, 2010 was BG. So you're looking at Brandon Graham. You're looking at Fletch. You're looking at Wentz. You're looking at the jury's still on Barnett, even though I love him, and jury's still on Dillard. 3 surefire picks from 2010 to 2019, maybe 5. So half of your first round picks. If you're not hitting on more than that, I know teams miss on first round picks. I get it. I completely understand. But if you're not too keen on picking in the first round, if it's not high, it's not a high first round pick. And you saw, Marcus Smith was in the 20s. You see what the kind of player you get. Trade it. Trade it for Darius.
So we're all on board with my concept.
Yes.
All right, cool. So any last thoughts?
Nope. Thanks, Gino, for coming on, being our last October guest.
Thank you, boys, for dealing with my voice is a little shoddy from this game today. Like I said, I yelled Josh Allen stinks probably 175 times in front of those fans, and this game meant a lot to me. And I get really emotional playing against Buffalo because I live in the environment. I'm around these people all year. This game is, to you guys, it's just an AFC East game. This is like me playing like everybody in my backyard. It's like me against the world, and it's a unique experience to go to these games once every 8 years and feel part of it. And man, today, that out of any game and any game plan and any way I could have asked that game today to go, that was exactly what I wanted to see. Carson Wentz went on, put on a pure show. Miles Sanders, hats off to him, hats off to the defense. And hey, man, we're sitting here 4-4. We were talking about the same exact thing a year ago. We just came off a big win in London against the Jags. We're sitting here today off a big win against Buffalo with the trade deadline coming up. If I can leave your fans with this and my former PSN fans that followed me at PSN and hopefully still follow me over at Locked On Eagles, is that with the Philadelphia Eagles, don't ever doubt them. Our fans were at 7% trust rate for this team before this Buffalo Bills game. Why? We're a half game behind the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas has never showed us anything since Dak Prescott has came there. We have been to the playoffs and have the second best playoff record in the past 2 years, except for the New England Patriots. This team can get it right, and they can do it with one of the best general managers in football in Howie Roseman. And
it's Howie season.
It's Howie season, and man, I'll ride the Eagles, the midnight green, till the day I die. And this team, they're going to get it right, and today was the first step in it. And fly, Eagles, fly, guys. We're many more games to go, but one foot in front of the other, and on to Chicago.
Halfway there.
Well, Gino, we really appreciate you coming on, man. Hopefully we get you on again.
For sure.
Where can everybody find you at?
Yeah, so on Twitter at Gino_LOE, not like Geno Smith, GINO_LOE. You can find my co-host at DiBiase LOE. You can find our Twitter account at Locked On Birds. All of our podcasts are on Apple, iTunes, SoundCloud, wherever you guys get podcasts, wherever the PSN guys have podcasts. I'm sure we share a lot of the same platforms. You could find us there, and I never have any problem promoting good podcasts. So PSN, you guys keep doing your thing. I know you guys are doing great over there at Liam Jenkins and with Liam, and ever since I left, you guys have been in good hands, so keep doing what you're doing, and go Birds.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Chris, where can they find you at?
You can find me at Infante54. That's infant with an E at the end, 54. You can find this on Twitter.
The user. I had to do that.
You're lucky I'm not there in person because it's like the outside your ball head. And you can find us at Flippin' Birds Pod. You can find Brian at Dumpster Fire PSN, at B Cameron CAMERON PSN, and we are. It's hard to believe that it kind of that we're halfway through the season already. 8 games down, 8 to go. It's crazy how we're only on episode 16, but we started this in July and we're already on episode 16. This time is flying. Be prepared the next 4 weeks because there might be a time where we're on a podcast and all of a sudden I gotta bounce because my wife's going into labor. So it's be prepared for fireworks the next 4 weeks between the Eagles and my personal life. But so thank you all for joining us. Thank you for your support, and go Birds.
Yes, sir.